Welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to talk about the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. But first of all, I'm going to talk about why. And this is the first time I do this, and it feels kind of weird. So J.K. Rowling seems to have gone a bit mad. I've followed her on Twitter for a long time, and it sort of seems like she's just spiraling into something that's not very useful to the world right now. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth reading the books. I usually don't background check the authors I read. What would that gain? Information, insight? But I'm pretty sure that some of the authors I've read before has done more evil stuff than J.K. Rowling, but I'm not going to try and set them up against each other. That's sort of useless. But anyway, I'm 34 years old. That means that I grew up with Harry Potter. I didn't read the books, but everyone around me did, and I'm pretty sure that she allowed a generation, my generation, to read books. I vividly remember one guy in my class picking up Harry Potter without having read that many books from before, and he just fell in love with them and read them over and over and over again. And it became his thing. But it became so many people's thing to read. And, well, that's great. I'm pretty sure that all of you that watch my videos think that's a good idea. So even though the whole thing about J.K. Rowling to me now seems a bit sad, I felt like it was time that I read the books. Because I have watched all of the movies like each year for the past 10 years. So I've seen the movies a bunch of times. That doesn't mean that I remember them that well. I just enjoy watching them and listening to the John Williams soundtrack because that's just beautiful. In short, I liked all the books, and that's probably because I like the story. It's not that complicated. I thought the movies and the books would differ more because Harry Potter fans have told me that they differ a lot. I didn't think so. I think they started filming the first movie when The Goblet of Fire came out in the book version, so they didn't exactly know where all this was heading when they started filming the first books. But I thought they got the gist of it, I guess. I guess what bugs people that loved reading Harry Potter when they grew up, besides the J.K. Rowling derailing, is that they read Harry Potter when they grew up. Everything's better when you grow up, so if you love something in your childhood, it will just live with you forever. And, well, I'm envious of that feeling, but it can't really be replicated, and that is what I found when I read these books. I feel like these are very age appropriate. If you start reading them when you're about 8 to 10 years old, and you just read them once they're published, you sort of have friends in the books that just grow up with you and have sort of the same dilemmas that you might have, except for the trolls and the magic and the stuff maybe you want that in your life, so that's the extra spice. But I really felt like having kids reading this as they go along, it feels very natural. So if you start reading these books when you're a kid and you read one book for each year that passes, you might end up being a person that hates fat people, or think they're all evil, or just think that every slave on the planet Earth wants to be enslaved because they like it. So there are some dilemmas. I see how some parents wouldn't like having their kids reading these kinds of books, but also, when I read them, I sort of had the J.K. Rowling Twitter thread in my head, so that affected my whole experience in some way. It's sort of like I never give her the benefit of the doubt, because that time has come and gone. And now when I read her books, I have a nuanced look at them, I guess, I hope. I think. I don't know if it's a shame or not, but everything she will write for the rest of her life, I think will be just... what's the English expression? Be painted with the colors she has made for us. I hope that made some sort of sense. I think that surprised me, but shouldn't have surprised me about these books, is how much I loved the first three. And the reason for that is that they're more centered around urban fantasy, which I guess I love. And also it's the rags to riches thing with Harry Potter, breaking away from his evil family. I love that part of the books and also the movies, so I shouldn't really be that surprised, but I don't know that there are many people on this earth that likes the first books versus the last books. At least the people I know like the later books more than the first ones. And maybe the writing is better or something like that, but the story I find to be more intriguing in the first books. It's all about him struggling, I guess. Of course, the books have more detail and more lore. Some of the lore is cool, some of the details are, nice to know about, but it doesn't really affect my reading experience as long as I know where it's all heading and I know the main storyline. I just don't care as much. But of course, I know that there are people out there that care a lot, and people form communities around these details. So for some people, this is important. I think the most frustrating thing about the whole series was Hermione's house elf business. It just didn't go anywhere, and it was so much talk about the elf rights movement all of the time, but it was heading nowhere, and I was at least hoping that something would come out of it, but nothing really did. And also this is where all of the they want to be enslaved stuff comes in. And since Great Britain hasn't always been that great, it was a bit unnecessary, I guess. And again, one of the things I did enjoy was how they more mixed the regular world or explained how the two worlds were connected. So when the two prime ministers met towards the end of the series, I thought that was fun. Getting a bit more insight into how that relationship worked. Then over to the characters, I felt like they were in general a bit more human than they are portrayed in the movies. They act a bit more normal. They're more angry, they're more sad, they're more dumb, they're more smart, or more like humanly smart, I guess. One thing I thought of when I started reading was how Hagrid feels like just the world's most stupid man in the first books. In the movies, he's a bit more bright, or maybe it's just a facial expression he has. Because when I read the books, if I read the books for the first time, and without having seen the movies, I would have thought that Hagrid was a very, very not competent person. And you might say that he isn't, but he just seems so dumb. Also, we have Percy Weasley, which is an important figure in some of the books, but just disappears in the movies. It irritated me quite a lot that he was quite important, and then towards the end, oh, we're friends, everything's good again, I'm here. That was a roller coaster, you might say. I did enjoy where it all was heading because I hoped that he would fight against his family and then die, but that didn't happen. Then we have Snape, which is just a monster in the books, but in the movies he's just a bit mean, so that was quite the difference. And then we have Ginny Weasley. I don't know if you've seen the memes about Ginny Weasley, but I've heard for the last 10 years that she doesn't have a personality in the movies versus the books. And this is 1000% true. She really has like a voice of her own in the books. And that made a lot more sense, and I liked her. Now I just have one question left, and that is, how many hours of therapy did Harry Potter have to go through before he grew up? Because he had to try to kill people, he had to try to get killed, he had the weight of his shoulders, like literally, all of the time. He had to be a grief counselor to Hagrid when he felt like the world wasn't going his way. It just occurred to me how weird that all is. I know that this is a fantasy novel, but it just struck me how unrealistic like having all this pressure on that little kid would have been. And the books made me realize this. So the books affect me in another way than the movies. I think that sort of sums it up. I know that I could have talked about this topic for ages because I recently started to watch the movies just to clear my head, and there are questions upon questions for each minute that I watch. So maybe sometime in the future I will start to rant about this again. But for now I think I'll stop. So thank you for watching this video. If you have thoughts about these books, which I guess that most of you have, please leave them in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.